What was the political climate at this particular time? This was after the wartime, and it seems to me that there was a lot of political activity and
A lot of Klan activity.
there was Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yes, they ran the whole county and state, schools, juries, everything.
What particular personal association did you have any contact or anything about
Yes,
their activities?
After we decided to build the Spavinaw project,
Mhm.
we got the contract to build it, to do the engineering,
Mhm.
and I had 40 engineers, professional engineers on my payroll. And one day, 3 men came to me and said they told me they represented the Ku Klux Klan, and that they
Did
said,
you know the men?
No,
Mhm.
no, I don't even know who they were.
Mhm.
They told me I had 18 Catholics, Roman Catholics, on my payroll. They wanted me to get rid of them. I said I wouldn't even know who they are. I didn't ask them what their religion was when I hired them. They said, well, you're going to have to let them go. And I said, well, I'm not going to. And they left. Next day, the mayor called me, and the next day, 2 other members of the board called me and said they appreciated my attitude, but they were giving me advice.
They know anything about your attitude?
How did they know about it?
Uh-huh.
And I think these people told them
Oh, I see.
that I wouldn't give in, and so they didn't bring any pressure to bear on me,
Mm-hmm.
but they advised me to get rid of these men. And I said I couldn't, I wouldn't do it. I didn't hire them on that basis, I wasn't going to fire them on that basis. And that's the last I ever heard of it. Never heard any more about it.
This was the following day after these Klansmen
Yes, after they'd come to see
approached
me.
you,
and
then
they-
the mayor and the 2 members of the Water Commission
That's right.
knew what went on between you and these
That's right.
unidentified men.
That's right. Well, I assumed all the time that the mayor and these 2 members were members of the Klan.
Uh-huh. Well,
They didn't tell me they were.
uh-huh. But the fact that they knew what
Sure.
your conversation had been. Mm-hmm.
And one of them was my banker.
Oh, really? One of the men that called you?
Yeah.
mean? Uh-huh.
Ruth, may I ask, Mr. Holway, what do you attribute the strength of the Klan to at this point? Why was the Klan so strong and so well integrated into the political framework at the time?
Well, I don't know. It was after the war, and there were so many hijackings and so much crime going on after the war. People came back with guns, and knew how to use them. There were all kinds of hijackings. I carried a .45 on my lashed to my driving wheel of my car, going back and forth across the country.
Well,
And
then were the KKK sort of vigilantes in a way?
that's what they pretended to be.
Yeah.
They pretended to be protecting the public against thugs. What they turned out to be was an anti-Jew, anti-Negro, anti-Roman Catholic organization. But they absolutely, they fired a school superintendent here, and you couldn't get a jury that they didn't influence and get the list changed, anything.
And they obviously drew their strength from the Protestant element
Yes.
in the country.
Yeah, and although I'm a 32nd degree Mason, I think largely from Masonic orders too. Certainly on the Catholic feature.
Well, it infiltrated all groups of people then. It
No
wasn't
question, all over the
it
state.
wasn't thugs that were involved.
No, although there were a lot of them belonged.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of taxi drivers, I'm sure, showed up in this race riot, of course.
Mm-hmm. What? Tell me what you knew about the race riot. How it was? Were you involved in?
I saw the first man killed in it.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, we were in, this youngman who was water commissioner had a drugstore down on 3rd Street.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend of mine, well, he later was employed by me, went down to a show, late show.
What date was this, Mr. Holway?
1921, I can't give
May
you.
31st.
We went down to a late show movie and left Mrs. Holway and the children at home. And right in the middle of the theater program, somebody came in and shouted, "Nigger fight, nigger fight." And everybody left that theater on high, We went out the door and looked across the street, and here was Youngman's drugstore with these big pillars. There were 2 big pillars there. at the entrance. And we got over behind them and just got there when a Negro ran out of the alley across the street. And the minute his head showed outside, somebody shot him.
This was at what, 3rd and...
It's just off of Main on 3rd, the Theatre Theater.
Oh, I see.
We went out of.
Mm-hmm.
His drugstore was in what's now the World Building.
I see.
And this man was shot and rolled out in the middle of the street with a revolver in his hand. And the crowd around him wouldn't let anybody touch him or pick him up, wouldn't let an ambulance pick him up. We stood there for about a half an hour watching that, but he wasn't quite dead, but he was about to die. But he was the first man that was shot in the riot.
Well, people were standing around? These were just good citizens?
Yeah, I suppose.
What happened to the police? Where were the police?
They didn't show up for quite a while.
They didn't?
No.
Had anyone called them?
I don't know.
Uh-huh.
We didn't.
Uh-huh.
We just went home.
This was about what time?
11 o'clock at night.
11 o'clock.
It was a late show.
Was it ever discovered who shot this man?
No, because there were so many shot that night.
What happened following this?
There were cars of Negroes went up and down Main Street firing guns, and other people, taxi drivers and everybody got them, drove them back across the tracks. Just an armed conflict. The Frisco railroad tracks being the dividing line. Of course, they burned hundreds of homes in the black section. The funny thing was that white folks woke up the next morning and found out they owned the mortgages on all the houses and all the pianos and everything they had.
Well, who burned them?
White folks over there. I don't know who. Just a crowd that arose and drove the Negroes back across the tracks. Then the governor, of course, called out the militia, state militia.
And did they ever determine what caused it?
The riot?
Uh-huh.
Well, they started in an elevator in the courthouse. Some elevator girl claimed that a Negro boy in the elevator tried to attack her.
Mm-hmm.
There's never any...
In the courthouse?
Yeah, in the courthouse, Tulsa County Courthouse.
I thought that it had occurred down on Main Street.
No, it was right in the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And the sheriff, with a hose, could have dispersed this crowd that were around there at the time if he'd wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But he just wasn't about to get mixed up.
Were the sheriff's deputies or any law enforcement officer on the streets?
Not that anybody could see.
So the people just sort of took it into their own hands.
That's right.
You wonder why they would go from the scene of where it happened clear across about 6 or 8 blocks away to get to North Tulsa.
Well, this man that was at the courthouse and ran down this alley from the courthouse to the Youngman's drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
The man that was shot, I saw him shot. But they were right. I went home and told my wife there's something exciting that happened. I'd tell her about it in the morning. You know how well that went. But they hadn't been home over 15 or 20 minutes.
Where were you living then?
South St. Louis, 1600 block.
Mm-hmm.
And our next door neighbor called up after he got home and said, "Get your guns, the niggers are coming." They were doing that all over town.
Did they?
No. It's the other way around. The whites went over there.
Mm-hmm.
Did the Negroes put up any resistance?
Oh yes, they put up some resistance, but I don't know. They estimated 200 or 300 Negroes were killed, and only one white man. One white man was shot.
This was a time when the whites just took the law into their own hands then.
Yes, and I think mostly it was Klansmen. Took that opportunity to do something definite.
Mm-hmm.
How long did this riot last?
Well, I think I'd say better part of a day and a half before they got it all down.
And then the governor established martial law.
Yeah, well, he called in martial law the next day.
Mm-hmm. Then how long was the city under martial law, do you recall?
I don't think but a few days.
Mm-hmm.
I remember. That was Governor Walton,
Mm-hmm.
Jack Walton.
Someone told me that he was an anti-Klansman.
He was, and that's why he got impeached.
Oh. The Klan was that strong then in
That's
state
right.
politics.
That's right.
It was strong all over the United States at that time, wasn't it?
I don't think so.
It
Strong in
wasn't?
the South
It
and
was.
some states, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was strong in the North.
Mhm.
There have been some efforts to organize them, but I don't think they ever got very powerful.
Mhm.
They were really powerful in Oklahoma. They fired a great many of the Catholic school teachers here who'd been teaching for years, and
Mhm.
some of the best teachers they ever had.
Mhm. How long did this hold by the Klan over political life exist in Tulsa?
I wouldn't think over 3 or 4 years, seriously.
Mhm.
Maybe 5.
Did leaders ever come out then?
Who they were, you mean?
Who they
No,
were?
no.
You never knew
No.
who was a Klansman or not.